5 years ago, at the age of 18, Jack Letts, known as Jihadi Jack, left his middle-class home in Oxfordshire, left his parents and their organic farm, and travelled to the heart of the Islamic State, Raqqa in Syria. He was subsequently captured by Kurdish forces in 2017 while trying to flee to Turkey, and is now being held in Kurdish-controlled northern Syria. Earlier this year, various interviews with Letts were broadcast in the presence of his captors and, according to his parents, under duress.
I was an idiot. I'm not trying, like I said, I'm not trying to make myself innocent. I was, according to this definition, of course, I was a terrorist.
But you made the conscious decision.
I made the conscious decision
to join
leave.
ISIS.
Yeah, that's what everyone's decided.
But are they right to have decided that?
Well, I didn't come with the intention to join ISIS, but like I said, you get taken by the current.
Now he's been stripped of his British citizenship. It was, according to the Mail on Sunday today, one of the final decisions made by Theresa May's government. Under international law, it's illegal to leave someone stateless. But Letts has dual British-Canadian citizenship because his father is from Canada. The Home Office will not address specific cases, but a spokesperson said,
"Decisions on depriving a dual national of citizenship are based on substantial advice from officials, lawyers and the intelligence agencies. This power is one way we can counter the terrorist threat posed by some of the most dangerous individuals and keep our country safe."
This case mirrors that of Shamima Begum. Her British citizenship was also revoked. At the time, the Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, said she could try to claim Bangladeshi citizenship because of her background. With the most recent decision by the British government, what to do next with Jack Letts is now down to the Canadians. Last year, CBC News broadcast sections of Letts' conversations in captivity with Canadian consular officials.
Preferably, I want to come to Canada, but any place other than here is better. Tell my mum I'm sorry. Tell my dad I'm sorry. Tell them if I ever get out of this place, I'm going to try and be a better person.
The problem now becomes one for the Canadian government. Ahead of an election there later this year, the opposition is looking for a stick to beat Prime Minister Trudeau's Liberal administration with. So, this the perspective of one former national security lawyer with the Canadian government.
I don't suspect that the Canadian government will make any decisions with respect to Jack Letts anytime soon, and especially not until after the federal election this October. The government has made no moves to repatriate any Canadians to date, and I don't suspect that Jack Letts' case would be any different.
In the last hour, the Canadian government expressed disappointment at the British government's unilateral decision to, quote, offload their responsibility onto them.
Warwick O'Brien. Well, the parents of Jack Letts, John and Sally, spoke exclusively to this programme about the government's decision to revoke their son's citizenship. I asked them, first of all, for their reaction to that move.
It comes as quite a shock. It's kind of like you're kicked in the gut. It's not that we weren't entirely not expecting it, but it's quite a blow. And I think my first concern is how Jack will feel when he hears about it. We don't know if he has. But that's the emotional response. But actually, I think it's also really disappointing to see that that's how the British government is dealing with this issue. And Jack's obviously not the only person in this case, but it seems that to me that it's just shirking responsibility and passing the buck off to the Canadians. I mean, we're all Canadians, and I know Canada has a more enlightened approach to some of this, and are just as hard on terrorism as anyone, but I just think that they're passing the buck, really, and it's kind of disappointing. I really thought we were going to be able to resolve issues here.
Right, well, we'll come on to how you feel it should be resolved in a moment, but Sally, if I can just ask you the same thing. When you first heard this news, what went through your mind?
It was a real shock that that your government can do this to you without any form of redress or discussion or way of actually contacting Jack, given that he's being held incommunicado and has no access to a lawyer, you know, Jack and other people are now in a legal black hole, and this sort of massive action has been done without any form of redress that we can do, apart from challenging through the special immigration courts. But that is dependent on communication with Jack.
Will you try, notwithstanding that communication issue, will you attempt to challenge it?
We're in contact with the Canadian government, and as I say, I think they will have a more progressive way of dealing with this, maybe looking at the actual evidence behind this. I mean, it's interesting that this stripping of his citizenship, the reasons are apparently in the public interest, but yet in the same document, which I have right here, says it's not in the public interest for the British people to know why Sajid has made this decision. Justice doesn't seem to be able to happen here. He's not allowed a lawyer. You know, I thought that British citizens had certain rights. I thought we had the right to, innocent until proven guilty, the right of a trial, the right of free speech. None of that seems to occur. And none of that seems to be in the public interest, according to Sajid. So I think he's the one who's maybe in denial about the truth about Jack and what Jack didn't do. It's not us who are in denial and naive. I think it's maybe Sajid that's a bit of a coward and is in denial and naive. And obviously it's his last act, and he can move on and not have to even justify it. So, I mean, I would love to have a debate with Sajid Javid about this and see what are the reasons that they've done this. We can't even find out. It's all secret. That's what we're all living under.
Well, we will endeavour to ask. Sally, may I ask you, as I understand it, Jack has expressed the wish that he wants, in fact, to go to Canada and not come back to the UK. Is that your understanding?
I think Jack wants to come back to whatever country will take him, and he was under the impression that actually Canada was more expressed a willingness to have him back, and that's certainly what we've been told by the Canadian government, that they've been making every effort to bring him back. In fact, they were very close, we know, to bringing 11 Canadians back sometime last year, and then that all fell apart under pressure of the British. So it'll be interesting now to see what the position is on that.
The situation right now is that Jack is, for all we know, we think he's still alive. We actually have no proof of life. We get the occasional letter from the Red Cross. How do I know how he is? He could be dying of kidney disease, which we know is in the family. There's all sorts of issues. We know he's been tortured. I have no idea. I want him out of his situation, and I want him to face justice if indeed he's done something wrong. I fervently believe that he hasn't. If he has, I'll be the first to admit it publicly. Right. But I was very, very wrong.
I'm bound to ask.
I just want him out. I don't care where it is.
What effect has this had on your family? You have a son, as your husband's saying, you're not even sure whether he's even alive. You're convinced he's been tortured. He has a son. You have a grandson out there somewhere, we know not where. What effect has this had?
I don't know, I can't answer.
Maybe I can answer it. Maybe that's the evidence you want right there, but they have very successfully destroyed us in this trial, and we're both very stressed. Everyone talks about having PTSD or something. Well, it's real, and you don't sleep for years. You don't enjoy anything in your life. I mean, they've crushed us financially, closed bank accounts, all this kind of thing. So here I keep saying our trial has just ended, and we're still running a marathon, only not with a heavy backpack, because at least we're not in jail. But we did what we had to do to keep our son alive and to get him free. And we did what we had to do.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Sally.